Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, guys. My name is Jeff, and we are here to take a look at your pronunciation. So, again, this is the Schwab Mill, which we do every Saturday. We take a look at pronunciation files that you send us, and we give some suggestions in terms of how to pronounce them in a way that sounds the most natural. Hello to Emmanuel checking in. If you're watching us for the first time, ooh, that was very small. Hang on, let me try playing around with some things. Bloat it up more. Okay, it may just be my screen. But yeah, so we're going to be taking a look at two specific sentences, which you guys will be able to see in the chat box. Our first one here. So, what are you doing in our neck of the woods? And our second one, the rain threw a wrench in our plans. So, we're trying to use some idioms and expressions that are common in American English pronunciation. Okay, so that's going to be a big factor for us. Hello also to Shok, can you do me a favor? Check the document just to make sure that your pronunciation file got sent, because I'm looking through it and I thought you put one in, but I don't know if I could find it. So if it's not there, if you could add it to the end of the document, that would be great. Okay. Yes, and welcome, of course, to the schwa mill. That's great. Way to find the symbol for the schwa sound. That's great. I would have just done the wedge because I'm lazy and don't want to try and copy and paste that symbol from somewhere. If you're new to the stream, first of all, say hello, because it would be great to hear from you and learn about how you found us. Okay, even if you're watching on the replay, be sure to leave a comment so that way we know that you're here, and we hope to see you on a future Saturday as well. But if you want to get your own pronunciation analyzed for American English, what you can do is you can go to this link here, which again you can see at the top of the chat box. That's going to take you to our documents, and then you'll see all the instructions there, which we'll go over momentarily. But you can already start sending your audio files in. We have a decent number already, but always looking for more, and we'll try to get through everybody's. Hello to Naji. Thanks for checking in. Great to have you. That's great. Okay, so let's begin, though, just kind of analyzing our two sentences here. So the first one, what are you doing in our neck of the woods? And I do have to preface this by saying all of the suggestions that we give here are just that, suggestions. Context is always going to have a much bigger role in terms of, what words are going to be stressed and things like that. And that's going to have a very big impact on how these sound. Okay, so when I give suggestions on what words to stress or linking and things like that, just understand that we're talking about these sentences without any context, so that can affect how these things do sound in different situations. Okay, but for this first sentence, what are you doing in our neck of the woods? Lots of possibilities here. I'm imagining, if I was actually saying this to someone, like I'm imagining like a friend stopped by and I wasn't expecting them because don't usually see them at this time. Like, hey, like, what are you doing in our neck of the woods? What are you doing in our neck of the woods? Okay. So, first stress, and I'm going to agree with Emmanuel here saying stressing woods. I would agree with that as well. So, woods, I think, is a natural place to put a stress. Doing an art. The second stress, though, or the earlier stress, I guess I should say, I would make do like R. What are you doing in our neck of the woods? What are you doing in our neck of the woods? Our neck of the woods. Our neck. What are you doing in our neck of the woods? What are you doing in our neck of the woods? Actually, let me rephrase. Now that I think about it, I'm even kind of questioning myself. You certainly can stress woods. I think another option for that could be R. Like, what are you doing in our neck of the woods? So you could say our neck of the woods. You could say it that way. Or you could stress our neck of the woods. I could see either of those possibilities. So as we listen to your files, those I think are some of your more natural places to place stress in the second thought group if you have multiple thought groups. Okay. What are you doing? You could put some stress on doing as well if you have two thought groups. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing in our neck of the woods? Or what are you doing in our neck of the woods? I think either of those options would be natural ways of saying this. Okay. Besides stress, though, lots of other things you want to be considering. Starting off with vowel sounds. Some tricky vowels here. For instance, woods. Woods tends to be a difficult word for people to say. A note that woods is going to have the same pronunciation as, for instance, wood, The modal verb. Okay. Um, so would, same exact sound. Some things you want to be mindful of. Um, for this, what you're going to do is you're going to raise that back of your tongue. You're going to lower the front of your tongue. Big thing is going to be your lips. You want your lips to be pretty straight, and you want your mouth to be relatively open. Whoa, whoa. Really pay attention to my lips there. Whoa, whoa. Notice how straight my lips are. If you find this to be a difficult sound to produce, one suggestion can be to try to smile a little bit because that's going to help straighten your lips out. The big tendency that I see with a lot of students is wanting to round the lips, so you end up like this woo, woo, woods. But again, it's more leads, leads. Okay. Of course, you also want the sound to be coming low and open. Lots of air needs to be moving through the throat. Otherwise, you're not going to get quite that sound. You might get more like wah, wah, but you want more wah, wah, lots of air. Notice too that for woods, for that W sound, even though it's a W, you don't really want your lips to go super rounded and super small. It doesn't need to be woods. Okay, you can just do woods, woods. Notice that my lips are actually staying relatively straight there. Okay, so don't let that W impact your vowel too much. Some other things too. Nekada. Neck can be a tricky sound just because of that sound. If you're saying knack, knack, or sounds like that, you really want more of a neck, neck. So it's not it's more eh. To make that sound, you want your tongue to take up a lot of space in your mouth. So you're raising the back, you're raising the middle, raising the front. For some people, it can be helpful to make that sound with the sides of your tongue on the left and on the right, touching your top teeth. It's like nah. I would just practice doing that combination, like nah, 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 and see how that sounds. Okay. Um, and the first part, what are you doing? Doing is a chance that some people are going to be stressing doing, and that can work. Okay, so doing. For this ooh sound, the way I know it, it's traditionally taught. A lot of people are taught that you need to have really small, round lips for that ooh sounds, like ooh, ooh, and that certainly can work. I don't have an issue with that, but just be open to other possibilities. What I see a lot is that when students are rounding their lips, it tends to make the sound a little bit tenser because you're focusing so much on your lips. You're shifting your placement forward. So you're getting a lot more like ooh, 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 as opposed to a more open oh, oh, oh. So again, notice how straight my lips are. So let's compare ooh and oh, ooh, oh, by having my lips a little straighter, it helps to open things up a little bit more. So you don't need to have super round lips there. Okay. Another thing, if you are used to British English or European English, you may be used to pronouncing that like du and things like that with a slight like eu type sound. But again, in American English, you're not traditionally going to hear that so often. So it's going to go right from the D sound to the oo sound. It's like do, doing, doing. Okay. Last thing too, doing ending on that ng sound, that mm. So if you're saying doing, that certainly can work. You may hear people doing that, but that's really more of a reduction. For our purposes today, we'll be trying to maintain that ng sound. Okay, what are you doing? Other things here, just pay attention to Manuel's comment. I super reduce what you're doing and what you're doing. What you're doing is, I don't. A lot of times with like linking and reductions and things like that, I don't think it's necessarily a question of formal versus informal. I think even in some business settings, you may hear people doing those sorts of reductions. It's just how people talk. So if you say like what you're doing in our neck of the woods, I think that's perfectly fine. So instead of what are you doing, you may hear what you're doing. Okay. Let's just note on that. Other things you want to watch out for what? Schwa sound. So if you're saying like what, like what are you doing? What are you doing? It's really more what are you doing? So again, more of that sound, very open and low in the throat. Okay, what? And yeah. Oh, last thing is that let's talk really quick about intonation. So this is an information question. If you're not sure what an information question is, information questions are times where basically you're not going to get an answer that's yes or no. You're asking information like what, where, how, when, why. Those are your information questions. When you ask those sorts of questions, you normally are going to have falling intonation at the end. Okay. So it should sound like at the end, woods, woods. You do not want to say woods, woods. That would imply more of a yes no question, just a note. So again, what are you doing in our neck of the woods? What are you doing in our neck of the woods? Okay. Um, Mentioning here too, Emmanuel is noticing getting a little tense on doing. Okay. One easy way to find out, what's if you feel that your sound is tense or that your placement's a little bit high or things are feeling closed off, like you're not getting a lot of airflow through. So that's a hard thing to say. Airflow through, airflow through. It's a tricky combination there. If you're not sure though, where are things changing? What is the difficulty that you're finding? One quick exercise you can do just to try to identify the issue that you're having is break it up into smaller parts. So for instance, start off just making the ooh sounds like oh, oh. If you feel like that is tense, then you've just identified your problem. Congratulations. Need to practice your ooh sound more. But maybe that sounds okay. So let's try adding a sound before it. So let's add that D sound. It's like do, ooh, do, ooh, do. And I also recommend doing that really fast, like ooh, do, ooh, do, ooh, do. Okay, just to make sure that your consonant's not getting too strong. If you have a hard time doing that fast, like you can't do ooh, do, ooh, do, ooh, do, but you do ooh, do, ooh, do, ooh, do, or like things like that, that's another sign that your D sound's probably a little bit too strong. Remember, English is really focusing on those vowel sounds. Okay. But yeah, if you find that you can do ooh, okay, but maybe you're saying ooh, do, that could be a sign that the D is causing your vowel sound to be overly tense. Another thing that you can check as well is how are you pronouncing D? What sound does the letter D make? Like, does it make like D, D? Or are you saying D, D? Do you hear a difference between those? D and D. Remember, placement is valid not just for vowel sounds, but for consonant sounds as well. So you want to make sure that your vowel sound is low and open too. You want more of a duh, duh. Another thing here, the D sound gets flapped if I go too fast. So let's again look at our sentence. What are you doing? And what are you doing? And a lot of times it's D sounds often do become more of a flap D, fast T, flap T, fast D sound. So like if you're saying like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like you don't need a super strong D there. So even if you're finding that it turns into more of a flap sound, that's not necessarily an issue. I mean, we'll listen to it and see. But a lot of times you don't actually want a super strong D sound. Okay. Yep. So if you have other questions about our first sentence, be sure to let me know. Let's take a look at our second one. Next one, the rain threw a wrench in our plans. The rain threw a wrench in our plans. The rain threw a wrench in our plans. I would probably, and again, we don't have any context, but if I had to just guess on where our stresses were, I personally would probably stress rain, like the rain. And if I had another stress, I would also probably stress wrench. The rain threw a wrench. Okay? The rain threw a wrench. The rain threw a wrench in our plans. The rain threw a wrench in our plans. The rain threw a wrench in our plans. So in terms of stress, again, I would do rain and wrench. In terms of some pronunciation things you want to watch out for, plans. This is a case, again, where you have that ass sound linking with a nasal. Okay, if you go to our channel and you search through our videos, there's a little search icon and you type in nasals or nasal. You'll see a video that comes up that takes a look at linking this ass sound to a nasal. This is probably one of the more difficult pronunciation linking sounds in American English, just going from an a to an n, because it's going to sound like and. What I see with a lot of students, what they tend to do is things like and or on, and those aren't quite the sounds you're looking for. You're really looking more for an and. So key things again, open and low. It's like ah. This is coming from the ah sound like in cat. But when it links with the nasal, it's going to slide back a little bit more. So instead of ass, more and then right before your end sound, you want to do a heavy breath out of your nose. It's like and. You see this, for instance, in the name, an, or the article, an, but also, for instance, in words like man, or plan, or can. There's not necessarily a whole lot of words that have this combination. However, the words that do have it are very high frequency. You see them all the time. So it's definitely a sound. If your goal is to get that natural sound in American English, that is a sound that you'll want to study. Okay, so like for instance, here we have plans. Another note too, we have that S after the N. N is a voiced sound. It makes like n, n. So that means the S will also be a little bit voiced too. So you're going to get a slight Z. It's like plans, plans. You don't want to hear plants, plants. It's plans. Okay. Another thing too, just regarding placement again, for that N sound, if you have an N by itself, what does that sound like? Well, you really want it to sound like mm, mm. If you say that an N sounds like that's already a sign that your placement's probably too high. It could be making your vowel sound too high as well. You might be saying plans instead of plans. So really trying to keep everything low and open. Okay. We also see the word wrench. Okay, the W is not really pronounced. It's just that R sound, wrench. Watch out again for that S sound. We talked about that in the previous sentence. For neck, keep your tongue taking up a lot of space in your mouth, blocking air. So it's more wrench. Okay. Other tricky sounds here, we get the oo sound again in throw. Watch out for that THR. That's a combination that tends to be a little tricky. You don't want to say like thra. No rolling of the R. I think, Emmanuel, you sent a comment some time ago talking about like R sounds and rolling them and things like that. So watch out for through. Okay, so it's not through, it's more through. That's a tricky sound. Do the TH, hold it a little longer. Then you can do your R sound like it's like thur. Just make sure you're holding them long enough. And then go from that R sound to your oo. It's like ro. Just try saying that like 3 times. Ro. Okay. So again, throw. Watch out for that combination. Other tricky word is going to be the word rain. Okay, so for rain, typically the hard part about this is the A sound linking it with the N. So make sure firstly that you can say A, okay? A. It's just like the first letter of the alphabet. A. You're going to see the middle and front of my tongue are a little bit high. The very back of my tongue is down, letting in lots of air. A. If you're saying A, that's a very common situation, but it's a sign that you're getting a little tenser and closing things off as you get to the end of your vowel sound. Try to keep it open the entire time. A. Another thing that can be helpful with that A sound is cutting off like the last half of the vowel. So instead of doing like A, see, just do A and just try that sound. The other tricky thing is linking that to the N. So it could be that you're saying A just fine, but when you get to the N sound, it tenses and closes things off. So you can say A, but maybe you're saying ain, A, ain, A, ain. That's not quite the most natural sound. So again, make sure when you're getting to that N sound that it's staying low and open. It's like ain. You will also notice that the N sound there is pretty weak, right? You're not really hearing it super strong. Another thing you can do to practice that, just like we did earlier, say it 3 times and try to do it as fast as me. Rain, rain, rain. Rain, rain, rain. If you're saying rain, 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 notice how much slower that is because your consonants are kind of taking over. You want it to sound more like rain, rain, rain. That N sound is pretty weak. The rain threw a wrench in our plans. In terms of linking, notice that wrench in, so that CH is going to link onto N. Okay. So it's more like re, chi, ren, chi. And then that N and N is going to link with the O and R. It's like wrench in our plans. Other things like the ran through a. Notice again that W sound on through is also going to link with that A sound in the article. It's like through a wrench. The rain threw a wrench in our plans. All right, lots of things there. Other things, I know I've missed a couple of comments. Let me know if you have any questions about that sentence. I do see that we have a question about reductions. So while I'm talking about that, let's mention the rain. So you want to make sure the is pretty weak. The rain. through a wrench. Make sure through us pretty fast and weak. Ran through a wrench. And then in our plans, you want to do that pretty fast. You don't want anything really standing out there in our plans. Throw a wrench in our plans. Most likely, plans would not get stressed in this sentence. You probably want to say to ran through a wrench in our plans. That's not the most natural sounding phrase to me. I think the more common place to get the stress would be on wrench. Get just a note there. Some other things that I missed. Oh, doing. Just talking about doing. And again, yeah, if you're saying doing, it's okay. Again, these sounds are very often made into more of a flap T, fast T sound. Yeah. Hello to Nana checking in. It's great to see you here. I'm excited to hear the audio. Rolling R's are frequent words like through. Yes. THR combinations. You really want to be paying attention to them. Anytime you have like a consonant before an R, like PR, BR, THR, those are ones you really want to be paying attention to, as always. And we will be keeping an eye out for placement. That is certainly one thing that we'll be paying attention to. Shok, I can see you sent in a new audio file. That's great. All right, I'm going to take just a real quick water break, but a gentle reminder. Like what you're hearing, let us know by liking and subscribing. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry if you heard all that. My mic is... I'm trying to find a good place in my desk space to put my water, but it's been difficult. Okay, I think that will work a little better there. Okay, but you guys did not come here just to see me ramble about how to pronounce these sentences. You want to get feedback for yourselves. So without further ado, let's get into how you're pronouncing these sentences. Oh, let me add myself there, right? Again, it's not little, it's more little.
The G host was class.
Are you feeling that here, or here? All right, so you're going to see I put on my headphones. That way I'll be able to hear your guys' audio. As we go through this, I'm going to be listening to you and giving suggestions based off everything that we just said from these sentences. So let's take a look and see what we have. I got to make sure. I always have to remember to share my audio. Otherwise, you guys will be like, what are we even listening to? Okay, so what you're going to see, I'll make this a little bigger since this may be the first time some of you see it. Okay, so this is our pronunciation file. As I can see again, Shok has just sent one in. Great. So what we're going to see, these are all the files that we have received to this moment. Okay. Let's see, people also have some questions if you want to answer them. If you want to leave me a question for us to talk about, be sure to let me know. I'm going to place them here. You're going to see that it directs you to a site called vocaroo.com. The site looks like this. You will be able to record your own audio. It gives you a link. You can then put that link here, and we'll be able to hear your file. By the way, this is the same document that we use every single week. So if you're watching this on the replay, thank you. It's great to see you in the future. Yeah, save this document because I basically clear it out on Thursdays, and then you can submit for the next live stream, whenever that may be. And currently, I do not see any visits from our very world famous and renowned singer. I'm not sure where he is. Maybe he's been busy. I know some people, for instance, have gotten girlfriends and boyfriends and things like that. So that's taken some people away from us on Saturdays, which is understandable. But let's take a look at our files here. I'll just be picking these at random. Let's kind of start in the middle here.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
I feel like we kind of had some movement going on in our intonation patterns.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
Okay. So,
what are you doing in our...
Like, what are you doing? So, I'm okay again with stressing doing. I don't necessarily have an issue with that. However, I do think that the pitch went a little bit high. I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of a situation where you would hear that.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
You know, maybe you're trying to show like surprise, like, oh, you weren't expecting to see someone, so that's why you're gonna boost it up. if you were going to show surprise, like someone turns up at your door and you're surprised by that, I don't think though that you would probably put the stress on doing then. Most likely you would put the stress on you. Like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? Like, I think you would get something like that. I don't think you would get, what are you doing?
What are you doing in our
Yeah. So, for instance, like if the singer, maybe he's on vacation, exactly. If he showed up at my door, I'd be like, "Hey, like, what are you doing? What are you doing?" Things like that. So I just think the pitch is a little bit unnatural for that case.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
And then the second half, like in our neck of the woods, in our neck of the woods.
Our neck of the woods.
So again, kind of getting that rising intonation on woods, right? But most likely you would actually get a fall there, because again, this is an information question. It's not a yes no question. So instead of woods, you'd expect it to be more woods, woods.
Our neck of the woods.
Instead of woods, more woods.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
Besides the notice about stress and intonation,
what are you doing in?
I like the RU, so you get the reductions there and the drop in pitch, which is great.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
Something in the NR.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods? You doing in our neck of the woods? 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 In our neck of the woods?
Might be in the N.
Doing in our neck.
I would just say maybe a little bit for N. So N, you want more of that short I sound. So say in, a little bit more N, N. What are you doing, NR? What are you doing, NR? What are you doing, NR? So like just watching out a little bit for that short I linking with the N sound. So instead of E, more N.
Of the woods.
So again, I would say this, what are you doing in our neck of the woods? Or what are you doing in our neck of the woods?
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
I also want to hear woods really quick.
Our neck of the woods.
Woods. I'm okay with that, actually. All right. Just want to listen to this one more time, see if there's anything else that stands out to me.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
Yeah, I think those are the main things. Okay, so just watch out for those stress things, intonation things. I think that'll give you a slightly more natural sound for this sentence. Take a listen to our first one.
The rain threw a wrench in our plans.
I like the in our plans. In our plans. I like that.
The rain threw a wrench in our plans.
In our plans. Wrench in our plans. I mentioned earlier that in terms of stress, I wouldn't expect plans to be the word that gets stressed. I would personally expect it to be more on wrench.
In our plans.
In our plans. Oh, you're not actually stressing plans. You're stressing our
plans.
Our plans. Our plans. And if you're not sure what stress is, we've talked a lot about stress where you're like, I don't know what stress is, Jeff. These are words that are emphasized. So what you're doing is you want to raise the pitch a little bit higher. So compare like this, 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 this. Notice that second one is just at a higher level. Okay. You also generally want to hold it a little bit longer.
In our plans.
In our plans versus in our plans. So I'm hearing the stress in R, but again, I personally probably would have put the stress instead on a wrench. Just a note. Okay. I do like
wrench in our plans.
In our plans. What I like about this, so again, I would change the stress, but something I really like about this sound, I like what you're doing with pitch.
Our plans. Wrench in our plans.
In our plan, you have a lot of movement, which is great, and I think this is kind of what Emmanuel's talking about when he says he likes the intonation there. You have a lot of movement. You're not staying static. It's dynamic. You're doing in our plans. In our plans. That sort of movement is great. Okay, you want to have those sorts of variations in pitch because that's going to give you a much more natural sound. Okay, so I like what you're doing. It's adding some contrast to what you're saying. It makes you sound way more natural, So while I would say that I would change the stress and things like that, in terms of the type of movement that you're doing, those are the types of things you do want to see. So I definitely do like that. Some sounds that might be helpful for reviewing.
The rain through.
Do you hear that? Rain.
The rain.
Rain. Do you hear that N sound on rain?
The rain
Rain. Rain.
through. The rain.
So I would just say it sounds a little bit tense on the N. So instead of rain, I do rain, the rain, the rain. You want to hold that A sound. The rain, the rain. The N sound could be a little bit weaker. I'd like it to be a little bit more open in the throat. I think it's going to give you a little more natural sound.
The rain through a rain.
Hear that THR? I know that's a combination we talked about earlier.
Rain through.
There's a lot. It feels to me like you're really pressing hard for that THR. Like, okay. What I'm doing, I got spit going like all over the place. You don't want to, you don't want to see that. I think you're pressing a little hard.
Rain through.
Through. Can you do more? Through. Through. The TH sound, I know it gets a lot of attention in English. Not all languages have that TH sound, so it can be tricky to learn. But it's actually a really light sound. You don't need to press so hard against your top front tooth. A lot of people are also taught that to make that TH, you put your tongue in between your teeth. So people are doing like a... I'm exaggerating a bit, but you may be doing something similar to that, okay? You don't actually need your tongue between your teeth, though, to make that TH. You just need to have a little bit of contact with your top front tooth. Okay, so instead of doing, see if you can do more. Notice that my tongue's not extending past my teeth. I'll try to lower my lips so you can see better. It's like, not sure if you can see, but the very tip of my tongue is actually a little bit higher. You can see the sides of my tongue right there and there, but the very tip of my tongue is actually right behind that top front tooth. And I'm pressing light, and I would experiment with that. You know, experiment with pressing really hard, like, and then experiment with pressing super, super light, like, and like, oh, that's way too light. I'm not even getting a TH. I'm just getting air. Like, press a little bit harder, like, okay. So just experiment, play around with it. Once you get more comfortable with that, then you can practice adding the R. It's like, thra, 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 and things like that. Okay. Because right now it's sounding a little bit forced.
Through a wrench.
How about that part with through a wrench?
Through a wrench.
Through a wrench. So like everything that I said about the last part of your sentence about in our plants, you had lots of movement there. But for this part here,
through a wrench.
You hear that? Through a wrench. Through a wrench. I would say try to get some more movement in this part because it's a little bit flat. Through a wrench. In general, in English does not like it when the same pitch is repeated too often, one right after another. It likes instead like do one here, go up a little bit, or go down a little bit. It doesn't usually like as much when things stay at the same place too often. So instead, through a wrench, more through a wrench, through a wrench. It's like you could go down, lower that pitch on a little bit for that reduction. Through a wrench, through a wrench. Okay. I think that'll give you a more natural sound there.
Through a wrench in our plans. Through a wrench.
Do that wrench versus wrench, wrench. Sounds to me like the very back of your tongue is down. You're almost getting like a more of an A sound, like versus N. Can you do like, just say the letter N for me? Can you just say N? Back of tongue high, middle front of tongue high, mouth more closed, sides of tongue touching your top teeth. N. If that's still a difficult sound, close your mouth more, raise the front of your tongue a little higher. Ren, N. And of course, try to project this from a low spot in your throat. N, ren, wrench, N, ren, wrench. So instead of range,
Through a wrench.
wrench. Hear the difference?
In our plans.
Okay, so those are definitely going to be my major comments for this. Lots of great things. I like your movement, especially at the end. Watch out for some of those stresses. Watch out for some of those vowel sounds and consonant sounds as well for like that TH. Emmanuel noting as well. I just do a whistly sound trying that TH. It's like, oh, like if you press, I think if you press like really hard, I could see that happening. If you press too softly, you're probably just getting air. Like it's just a bunch of air going through your mouth, which there are worse things, but you're not going to get that quite that TH sound. You know. Okay, but thank you so much for sending this audio file. It's great to hear. Hope to hear some more from you in the future. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, let's actually go to the top. Listen to this one.
The rain threw a wrench in our plans.
So again, sticking with the rain through a wrench as well. Okay, and by the way, if you are just joining us, welcome to the stream. Say hello in the chat. It'd be great to hear from you. But we are looking at your pronunciation files, which you can send. If you go to the top of the chat box, you'll see a document. You can also see it in the video description. This is a document that I'll send you here, and you can send in your own audio files. You can see all the instructions at the top. Okay. Oh no, I forgot which one I was on. Was it this one?
What you doing in our neck of the woods?
All right, well, we'll go back to the previous one. Let's take a look at this. Man, I think this is you. I remember that you told me like what you doing. That's what you said.
What you doing in our neck of the woods? What you doing in our neck of the woods?
What you doing in there? Pitches. I think our big thing that we're going to make a comment on is going to be pitch.
What you doing in our neck of the woods?
What you doing in what you doing in what you doing in I feel like everything's kind of at the same spot. Okay. So what that's doing, I mean, you're a speaker who is really embracing reductions and linking and joining things together. And I think that's great because that's going to give you that more natural sound. And a lot of people aren't necessarily doing that. Okay. So I always commend you on that. However, if you're using, I don't want to say however, I commend you on that. When doing reductions and linking, the key way to make sure people understand what you're saying is adding variety to your pitches. Because right now, everything's sounding a little bit flat. And so what's happening is you're reducing and you're linking, you're doing all of this work, and everything's kind of blending together. It's turning into mush. And so that can lead to some people having difficulty understanding because there's no contrast.
What you doing in our neck of the woods?
What you doing in our...
What you doing in our neck?
What you doing in our... It's like, if we kept that first part, what you doing? What you doing? And say, what you doing? What you
doing?
What you... I would firstly recommend, so I'm just going to identify for you some places where you could vary your pitch a little bit just to add some differentiation, just to add some contrast. So I would go a little bit lower on the yeah. It's like, hey, what you doing? What you doing? A lot of times, like, and say, what you, it's more, what you. It's like, what you doing?
What you doing in our neck of the woods?
What you doing? What you doing? So if you're stressing doing.
What you doing in our neck of the...
What you doing? Hey, what you doing? Guess that's your first progression. What you doing? What you doing? What you doing?
What you doing in our neck of...
Immediately after your stress word. So doing is your stress word. Okay. I would really recommend lowering the pitch after your stress word. It's going to help your stress word stand out more. And it's also going to help your reduced words stand out more too. It's going to create more separation between them. What you doing in our... what you doing in our... It's like doing in our... What you doing in our...
What you doing in our neck...
It's a, doing in our... We're doing in our... What you doing in our... Just again, to add more contrast. Make it a little easier to hear that separation.
What you doing in our neck of the woods?
Neck of the... What you doing in our neck of the woods? In our neck of the... In our neck of the... Neck of the...
In our neck of the woods.
In our neck of the... Neck of the... That's kind of what I'm hearing versus neck the... I would go neck the... It's like step, step, step. Down, down, down. Neck of the... Neck of the... And then you go back up for woods. Neck of the woods. Neck of the woods. Neck of the woods.
Our neck of the woods.
I said neck of the woods. More neck of the woods. Neck of the woods. Okay. What you doing in our neck of the woods? What you doing in our neck of the woods?
What you doing in our neck of the woods?
Okay, so that would be my, in terms of suggestions, that's my biggest suggestion. Play around with pitches a little bit more because right now everything's kind of staying right around the same level. Okay, and that's causing things to kind of blend.
In our neck of the woods.
me hear woods again.
In our neck of the woods.
It's like wood, do you hear that on the woods? Maybe it's just me.
The woods.
Woods versus woods.
Neck of the woods.
Woods. Can you go right from that W sound immediately to your vowel? So instead of woods, can you just do woods? So instead woods, more woods. In our neck of the woods.
What you doing in our neck of the woods?
Okay. So those are going to be my big suggestions there. Okay. I like what you're doing in terms of the reductions and things. Let's just add some separation with some more variations in pitch. Okay. Thank you as always for sending that audio file. I appreciate it. Hope everything there is clear. Let's see. Let's go here.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
Okay. I'll play again.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
Yeah. Again, some little vowel things. Same here with woods. Okay, kind of similar thing to what we mentioned.
Our neck of the woods.
Woods. I think what's happening is people are making their W sounds a little bit strong. So that's it's not giving you necessarily the most natural sound.
Neck of the woods.
It's drawing it out. It's making it sound over exaggerated. Okay, so instead of woods, so you can just do woods in our neck of the woods.
Woods.
It's a woods, more woods. Also keep in mind this sound. It's very open. You want lots of air coming through. And right now it sounds a little bit closed off in your mouth, like woo, versus wah. Hear a difference in terms of airflow. Just getting more through. Okay, woods. So listen to the first part.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
Okay, so this is a very big contrast to the previous audio. So the previous audio from Manuel, we had what you doing, but now we have the more full form.
What are you doing in our...
What are you doing? Okay, and either are fine. You'll hear both. Okay, you'll hear what you're doing. You hear what are you doing? You'll hear both. Okay, so it's not like one's right, one's wrong, or one's more common, one's less common. You'll hear both.
What are you doing in our neck?
I would say on doing. Pay attention to doing. So I'll say it again 3 times so you can hear it. Doing. Compare it to this.
What are you doing in our...
Doing. I think what's happening is that especially on eng, I think a couple things are happening. Your short I sound, your sound is becoming more. It's coming longer. It's like an e. Doing. Okay, so that's the first thing. Just make sure you're doing a short I sound. Second thing I would say is that doing the ng sound. To make that ng, you're raising the back of your tongue. You're lowering the front of your tongue. You want to make sure when you're making that sound, you want to make sure that you're producing that again, low and open in the throat. So there's more It's not because then that's going to be too high. It's going to make things sound tenser and more closed off versus it's like doing.
What are you doing in our...
You're doing. We want the second one of those, doing.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
I like that. I like what you're doing with pitch there. In our, taking those steps down. That's great. Adding some contrast.
In our neck of the woods.
Yeah, and then going back to my comment before on woods. Yeah. So those would be my major things there. I think making those adjustments would give you a little bit more of a natural sound for this sentence.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
Okay. One thing I did forget to mention. I like that. I like your fast D, flap T sounds like what are. I think that sounds pretty good. Sometimes people over-exaggerate the D sounds like what are and things like that.
What are you doing in our neck of...
But like what are. I like that. Sounds pretty good. Okay. Thank you for sending that audio file. I do appreciate it. Can't do this without you guys, so I appreciate it. Who's next? Let's go back to the beginning.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
Okay. Dramatic pause at the beginning.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
Just quick thing on stress. It sounds to me like you're giving me 3 stresses.
What are you doing in...
What are you doing? Stress on doing.
Our neck of...
In our. Stress on our.
The woods.
Woods. What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
Okay, so I would reduce some of these stresses instead of 3. At most, I would have 2. I would recommend 2. I would either stress doing or I would stress are. I wouldn't stress both, though. Okay, so I'll take off one of those stresses. In terms of vowel sounds, the big vowel sound I'm going to say is going to be that sound again on woods.
Doing in our neck of the woods.
Because I'm here, woods versus woods. So listen to some of those previous audio files at the beginning where we talk more about that sound in woods. I know it can be a tricky sound.
What are you doing?
What are you doing? So the way you're reading this part specifically, it sounds like you're reading off of a script, which isn't very fair because I know you are, right? I gave you a sentence to say, but the way you're doing it is it makes it sound like you're reading. It doesn't actually sound like how you would say it in a conversation. Like, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Like this again, it just sounds like you're reading. So if you want to give it more of a sound like you're actually, using this in like conversation or things like that, so what are you doing? Or hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Maybe one thing you could try is a falling intonation on doing. Hey, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? If you're stressing doing, try doing off a fall. Okay, what are you doing? What are you doing? Our neck of the woods. I said, what are you doing? Or what are you doing? Other things.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
I want to hear neck of the.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods? In our neck of the woods.
Neck of the. I like your linking there. It's like neck of the woods. I like that. I think that progression is pretty smooth. Okay. I think R.
What are you doing in our neck?
Our. That's. You will hear some people pronounce R as like our. Especially in cases where it's a little bit stressed and emphasized. In general, though, you're usually going to hear that become just R, just like saying the letter R in our neck of the woods. So instead of our neck of the woods, more our neck of the woods. I think it's going to be a little bit more common in terms of what you'll hear in North America. So again, what are you doing in our neck of the woods? What are you doing in our neck of the woods? Or what are you doing in our neck of the woods? Okay.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
Okay. Yeah. What are you doing in our neck of the woods? Thank you for sending that audio file. I do appreciate it. Again, we cannot do this without you. So you have a quick question I want to take a look at, as well as a water break. But as we do that, like what you're hearing, let us know by liking and subscribing. Okay, Mr. Go Big Go Home, great to see you again. Let's see what we got here. They ask us, what's the difference between anticipate and expect? Well, they are obviously synonyms. Okay. I feel like they're both are dealing with what would I say? Like they're both dealing with predictions and things like that. I think some of it may just come down to context and situations. In general, you can use them relatively in the same or very similar situations. An exercise that I think is always really helpful. I'll give you guys a chance to see my screen here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so if you're looking for, you're trying to understand the differences in terms of how things are used. Probably your most powerful language learning tool is Google. Google is nothing but a massive tool for almost any language, but especially for English. So like, for instance, I'm just going to type in anticipate and just kind of see what comes up. Like anticipate and prevent, anticipate and manage risk, anticipate. Let's just try some other letters. So I typed in anticipate A. Let's try anticipate B. Anticipate bottlenecks, anticipate behavior, anticipate benefits. Let's try like a random like H. I anticipate having. Oh, that brings up going. Yeah, anticipate having. You'll see that a lot with like gerund phrases like anticipate having what? Project complete. Anticipate having project complete. Waiting, anticipating. Another thing too. Let's kind of see what we expect. What comes up? Expect a baby. Expect big things. Expect fire. Expect failure. Oh God, sounds harsh, right? So this kind of gives you. This is a helpful thing for just kind of practicing and getting collocations, groups of words that commonly come together. This is a huge part of language learning, not just for English. I really recommend when you're learning vocab, don't just learn a word by itself. Try to find other words that go with the word that you're learning. Okay, it's going to speed up the process, give you more context and things like that. Okay. Yeah, honestly, I think they're very similar. I think anticipate has more a sense of uncertainty. Like you're not sure if something's going to happen, but you want to be prepared just in case. Whereas for expect, I think expect has a little bit more certainty. You know, like for instance, if you say, "Oh, I anticipate traffic," it's kind of like saying, like, I think there's going to be traffic, but I'm not entirely sure. There might not be. Whereas if you say, like, I expect traffic, again, there's always that uncertainty, but I feel like you're even more certain, you know. Um, expect big raises in 2022. Hey, I think we can all go for that, right? Okay. At least if you're like a salaried worker, which I'm not. I don't know if I'm going to get raises for myself. It's hard when you're a one-man show. You never know when you're going to get raises. But for those of you in 2022, I hope we can expect big raises for you. No, we're dealing with inflation and things like that. But yeah, in most situations, though, and of course you're welcome. You can use them pretty interchangeably, in all honesty. Okay, let's go back, take a look at some more files. Anticipate an alien invasion in 2023. I know in the U.S. they just the CIA or whatever, they released like files related to like aliens and things like that this year. That was the big thing. I haven't read through the file. I don't know what they found. There's all kinds of just like especially like naval officers, like people in submarines and stuff, seeing all kinds of weird things at sea, things coming out of water, flying at fast speeds, stuff. Anyways, you guys didn't come to hear about alien invasions and things. Or maybe you did. Maybe you anticipated that we would talk about those things.
The
Next
rain
one.
through original plans. The rain through original plans.
Rain through a wrench in our plans. It's not a little bit flat. Kind of like what we talked earlier about pitches and things like that. Okay. Play again.
The rain through original plans.
It's like the rain through a wrench in our plan. The rain through a wrench in our plans. So I think I like your stresses.
The rain through original plans.
I think I agree with your stresses. Those are the places where I would personally put stress as well. The rain through a wrench in our plans. One thing.
The rain through original plans. The rain through original plans.
Rain through a wrench. I feel like your stressed words are maybe a little bit overstressed.
The rain through original plan.
Like the rain, a little bit punchier. The rain. I would maybe say you don't have to go quite as high on your pitch. You keep it a little bit lower. Okay. I also say you could probably open up your vowel sound just a little bit more. Okay. The rain through a.
The rain through original.
The other thing that's making this sound pretty heavily stressed is notice how you say rain and through.
The rain through original.
Play again.
The rain through original.
The rain through a. The rain through a. The rain through a.
The rain through a.
What that's doing, what I'm hearing is this. It's a very brief pause, but there's a slight pause between that N and rain and that TH and through. Rain through, rain through, rain through. If you could smooth that out a little bit, rain through a, make your N sound a little bit weaker. So instead of rain through, more rain through, trying to draw your vowels together a little bit more. That can help smooth things out and make your stressed word sound less exaggerated and less punchy. So if you're like the rain through a, more the rain through a.
The rain through original plans.
It's going to be the same thing with wrench through.
Original plan. Through original plans.
Wrench.
Original plans. Rain through original plan.
It's like wrench in our plan. Wrench in our plan. Linking those a little bit more. Wrench in. It's like wrench in our plans. Wrench in our plans. Wrench in our plans. Just attaching that ch a little bit more to the n.
Wrench in our plans. Through a wrench in our plans.
Wrench in our plans versus wrench in our plans. Very slight things, but when it comes to stressed words, it's very easy for them to sound a little bit punchy, a little bit exaggerated. So just kind of smoothing them into the next word that comes after them can just help soften things, make them sound a little bit less exaggerated.
That rain through a wrench in our plans.
I would also say right now, rain and wrench have about the same pitch level.
That rain through a wrench in our
The rain through a wrench. The rain through a wrench. Okay, so it's like punch, punch. Just like, you know. I would make one a little stronger and one a little bit weaker. If you want it to be rain, if you want to emphasize rain, like the rain threw a wrench in our plans, the rain threw a wrench in our plans. But you're probably not expecting that as a listener. Usually your heavier stress comes later in a sentence. So I would personally expect it to fall more wrench, like the rain threw a wrench in our plans, the rain threw a wrench in our plans, rain threw a wrench in our plans. I would go a little higher on wrench, personally. Okay, because otherwise it's going to make it sound a little punchier. Besides that,
that rain through a wrench in our plans. That rain through a wrench in our plans.
Yeah, honestly, I think those would be my big things. I think this sounds fine. Just those little tweaks can make it sound even more natural to me because those stresses, again, are coming off a little bit punchy. Thank you so much for sending that file. If you have questions about anything there, be sure to let me know. Okay. And a quick note. Hello to Min. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Is it Min? And shoot. I've seen many people pronounce the stop T without touching the tongue behind their teeth, but just stopping it from the throat. Yeah, let's talk about that. I think it's a great comments. So I see many people pronounce without touching the top T. Yes. You know, with T sounds, specifically stop T, held T sounds, you know, there's nothing wrong. If you put your tongue in the normal position for a T, that's perfectly fine. There's really no issue with that. You can certainly do that. However, the reality is that it can't, how do I put this? It doesn't really matter what you're doing with your tongue because you're blocking the air with your throat. So, you know, if air's not coming through, it doesn't really matter what you're doing with your tongue. You can have it high, you can have it low, but the sound's not going to change much because by the time it gets here, it's already been blocked, right? So you don't actually need to have your tongue high. Like, for instance, the word cut. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to try to keep my mouth super wide. Cut. You know, that's with a held T. But I can also tip my tongue high, like cut. Okay, you can see my tongue kind of flicking up. So it doesn't matter a whole lot. Okay. It's just about blocking air with the throat. Okay. That's honestly the key thing with held sounds. This is not just for T's, by the way. Held sounds are valid for all kinds of sounds. So for instance, like D sounds, B sounds, P sounds, any of your consonants that involve a release of air, you can hold. You know, so it's going to be the same thing for those as well. Great question. I hope if we haven't seen your audio file, it'd be great to hear it. But thank you for joining us in the stream. Hope to see you in future ones as well. Okay. So Veda's in the house and she's got a picture of some greenery. I have the little icon kind of blocking the picture, but unfortunately links probably are not going to be able to be posted in the chat just because of the restrictions with like sending links. However, if you put it in the document, if you're able to, I will be able to see it there. But if not, I understand. And I'm sorry. If you could send it to me later, we can also take a look at it next stream too. But it's great to see you, Z. Great to see you. Just a note too, guys, if you are finding this helpful, we do this sort of feedback every single day of the week in our pronunciation group on Telegram. Eel, please. I think your O sounds are a little bit tense. I'm going to let O take off the T on center. I just want to kind of show you what it looks like. So basically, like I said, we do a challenge groups of words every single day of the week. Okay. So you can see here, people have been posting things. I haven't had a chance to post our latest one from today, but basically I post a challenge. So this is one we recently had. Okay. Oh, I totally have the wrong screen up. Oh my gosh, that would not be helpful, right? Okay, so again, this is an example of our Telegram group. Okay, so you see here, I posted this challenge a couple days ago. And then you can post all the people in the members that can then post their own audio files and they get feedback. Okay, you get some feedback from me, but you also get feedback from one other instructor that I worked with for a very long time, named Lenora, and she's great. Okay, so if this sounds like something that you would be interested in, it would be great to have you. You can join by joining the channel, or you can go to patreon.com/fluentamerican and get more information on that. It's actually a little bit cheaper. I think it's $5 a month on patreon.com. But again, we do this sort of practice every single day of the week. May even be some people in the channel. I mean, people watching the live stream right now. Okay, we're members. Let's go back, though, and take a look at more of your files. Is this the one we just listened to?
The rain through original plans.
Yeah, that's the one we just did. Take a listen to this one. And let me bring myself back here for a moment. Cool.
The rain threw a wrench in our plans.
Oh, a very dramatic plans. Plans. Again with this sentence.
The rain threw a wrench in our plans.
Rain through a wrench in our plans. So this actually goes well with the audio file we just listened to, because you have stress on rain, but then you also have stress on wrench, and the stress on wrench is just a little bit heavier. So just adding some contrast. I really like that. I think that gives you a more natural sound there. I like that.
The rain threw a wrench in our plans.
Do have some similar notes about pitch, though. I mean, I don't think this is you again.
The rain threw a wrench.
Yeah, the rain through everything's kind of almost at the same level.
The rain threw a wrench in.
You had some opportunities to go a little bit lower. So I don't think you're using enough of your lower pitches. Okay, I do hear you going up on your stressed words, which is good. But on your reduced words, experiment with just going a little bit lower. Okay, because right now everything's sounding at the same place.
The rain threw a wrench.
Your biggest opportunity was right there.
The rain threw a.
Rain through. Instead of doing that, I would have gone lower on through. The rain through a wrench. The rain through a wrench. Through a wrench. So I would have just gone a more dramatic step down and then another step down for the and I think that would really help, just adding some more separation between your words. The rain through a wrench. The rain through a wrench.
The rain threw a wrench in our plans.
You do have some more movement there in the second half.
A wrench in our plans. The rain threw a wrench in our plans.
Wrench in our. So you do get some movement there, which is great.
Rain threw a wrench in our plans.
In our plans. You didn't necessarily have to raise the pitch on plans. You could have actually gone a step lower.
The rain threw a wrench in our plans.
Actually, maybe you're going low.
Throw a wrench in our plans.
In our plans. Actually, it does sound to me like it's going a little bit up. You could have gone a little lower on plans if you wanted. Those would be my my big thing. Yeah. I mean, if there's anything just taken from this stream or previous ones, something to work on, I'll play around with pitches. Specifically lower pitches on your reduced phrases. I think that would be the thing that would be the most helpful for you. Okay. In fact, we have that workout video. Like if you go to the channel and you search pitch, I have a video that's just pitch exercises. I would do that a couple times a week. Just gotta get used to some of those rhythms and things. Okay. But yeah, that's going to be my biggest suggestion there. Let's just double check vowel sounds.
The rain threw a wrench in our plans.
A little bit for plans, because I'm kind of hearing plans versus plans. So I do think studying that sound plus a nasal would be helpful, just to know. Okay. But thank you for sending that audio file. Do appreciate it, Mayor. Hopefully those notes are handy. Okay, see, we do have another question. We're going to speak fast. You always pronounce the L in words like always, also, already, almost, all right, etc. Yeah, I feel like native speakers really pronounce it. First of all, Lathian, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, speaking of pronunciations. But it's great to have you here. Hope to see you in future streams. You feel like native speakers barely pronounce it. because native speakers are barely pronouncing it. In fact, they're not even really pronouncing an L. They're pronouncing what's known as a dark L. Okay, so instead of doing like if you're listening to these words, trying to hear like always, also, already, you're going to be really disappointed, or you're going to be waiting for a very long time because native speakers aren't pronouncing those. Typically, when you see an L sound at the end of a word, and very, very, very often in the middle of a word, especially if it's not stressed, those L's become a dark L. So instead of raising the front of your tongue, what you want to do is you want to lower the front of your tongue towards the bottom of your mouth, and you want to raise the back of your tongue higher. So instead of getting all these words here have all, so you're not going to hear all, you're going to hear ah, almost like that like AW type sound, like like saw, or raw, back of your tongue high, front of your tongue down. So that's going to be true for all of these words. Always, also, already, almost, all right. Okay, you really want to try to keep that aw sound clear. The other key thing with this too, this aw sound, making sure that you're getting enough air. What I often see with students is they're blocking things off. So sometimes you're getting like like but you want more ah. So it's not all, it's more ah. Lots of air coming through. Don't block the air. Okay. So again, I'll say each of these words once. I'll pause for you to repeat if you're watching this. Okay. So use this a little bit of an exercise. Also recommend recording yourself so you can compare how I sound to yourself. Always, also, already, almost, all right. Okay. So again, just try and get some more dark L sounds. Great question. Super, super, super common situation in English. Going to give you a much more natural sound if you can use those dark L's. Super common. So Beta also asked us, I can't get your tag. So Beta, can you give me a little bit more context? I have just seeing this on its own. I don't know. That's a great question. Tag is in, I imagine, some sort of identification and things like that. Yeah, if you can tell me where you got that from, I'll be much, much, much more helpful. Yeah, I will wait and check on the chat for that. Let's listen to our next file.
What do you do in our neck of the woods?
Say that again.
What do you do in our neck of the woods?
Your neck of the woods. I think some similar things, I think, to what we mentioned earlier about woods.
What do you do in our...
What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? So you're putting a stress on you.
What do you do in our neck?
What are you doing? What are you doing? If you stress you, I'm okay with that.
What do you do in our neck?
What do you do? You do. Listen to the you do.
You do in our...
Back that up more. Where is that?
What do you do in our...
You do. It does sound to me like your ooh sound. You get this in you and you get this in do. It does sound a little bit closed off and a little bit tense and high. So you're getting ooh versus oh. Okay, so that's the first thing I would say. Try to get the sound a little bit more open, a little bit more air through. Okay, so say you do more you do.
What do you do in our neck? What do you do in our...
What do you do? You do. What are you doing? I think right now, kind of some of the things that we mentioned earlier about pitch. Right now, you have two words that kind of have about the same pitch levels, like you do versus you. What are you doing? What are you doing? You probably want to go lower on do, okay? Because right now it's kind of the same pitch level almost. You do versus you do. You do.
What do you do in our neck of the woods? What do you do in our neck of the woods?
Are you saying doing?
What do you do in our neck of...
Maybe it's there very faintly. Hang on.
What do you do in our neck of the woods? What do you do in our...
Yeah, that NG sound, I think you're reducing a little bit too much. What are you doing? What are you doing in our doing in our? So I would also pay attention to that phrase there. Doing in our, doing in our, doing in our. I'll just say that a couple times just to make sure that the NG sound is a little bit clearer, because right now it sounds a little bit too reduced.
What do you do in our neck of the woods?
In
What do
our
you do in our neck of the woods?
in our neck of the woods. In our what are you doing in our? The R is a little bit strong. Maybe because of the thought group. Where's your thought group ending?
What do you do in our neck of the woods?
What are you doing in our?
What do you do in our neck of the woods?
Okay, so your thought group. So like, what are you doing in our? What are you doing in our? And then you have your thought group ending, and then you have neck of the woods.
What do you do in our neck of the woods?
Is that? It's an interesting place to put the thought group. I understand it. What are you doing in our neck of the woods? What are you doing in our neck of the woods? I feel like in this situation, if you put the stress on you, which is kind of what I hear you doing, what are you doing? What are you doing in our neck of the woods? What are you doing in our neck of the woods? What are you doing? What are you doing in our neck of the woods? I personally would recommend. I would put the thought group after doing. What are you doing in our neck of the woods? I probably want to put it after R because that break sounds a little bit off to me.
What do you do in our neck of the woods?
In our neck of the woods. In our neck of the woods. I would also reduce neck. Neck sounds a little heavy.
What do you do in our neck of the woods?
It's like neck of the woods. Neck of the woods. I would just keep one of those heavy. If you want to stress neck, in our neck of the woods. Or woods. Neck of the woods. What are you doing in our neck of the woods? What are you doing in our neck of the woods? Either of those are fine, but right now I think you're kind of putting a lot of emphasis on both.
What do you do in our neck of the woods?
Okay. Last thing I would say for woods.
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 In our neck of the woods.
Woods. Woods. Woods. Clear difference between mine and yours. Woods.
In our neck of the woods.
Sorry. Woods. 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 Can you get that placement a little bit lower? Another thing you can experiment with too, try saying it like 3 times fast. Like woods, 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 woods. If you find that you're saying woods, 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 okay, that's a sign that your placement's a little bit high. Your vowel sound's probably a little bit short, and your D sound's probably too strong. Whereas more woods, 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 woods. You're trying to get that sound to be the main sound that you hear. That's the dominant vowel. Okay, so I would experiment with that a little bit. Okay, so playing around a little bit with pitches, playing around a little bit with your stressed words. Those would be my big suggestions there. Hopefully that makes sense. Thank you so much for sending that file. Okay. Can't get your tag. Paying attention to this beta. Okay, people are playing Call of Duty. A couple different. I don't personally play Call of Duty, or I played the first one when the first one came out, like 15, 20 years ago. It's been a minute. Haven't played any of them since. Tag could mean like the username of the person, like if he's playing online, like someone is having a hard time finding him. Okay. Tag could also potentially be like an enemy that someone has spotted or something like that. That's another possibility. We have any Call of Duty players here that play online, familiar with the lingo. Every game has its own expressions and things like that. It would be great if you could help us with Zobeta's question about can't get your tag. What does that mean? Any Call of Duty players here? Any things like that? Destiny players? Fortnite players? Anyone doing those things?
The rains through a range in our plans.
A question here about dog tag. I don't think it's a dog tag. Okay, but it could be. I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know how the new Call of Duty works. I don't know if people die, you can pick up their tags or something. Was it this one again?
The rains through a range in our plans.
3 very defined thought groups, right?
The rains
The rain thought group.
through a range
Through our wrench thought group.
in our plans.
In our plans thought group. I would take one of these off. I would try to reduce the number of stresses you have.
The rains through a range in our plans.
I again based on what we said before, I would probably take off the last thought group instead in our plans. A wrench in our plans. I would just wrench. I wouldn't stress plans.
The rains through a range in our plans.
Okay, just a note on that. Some other things here.
The rains through
Marcos, I know in the Telegram group we've been working a lot on the like linking sounds with N, specifically like the A sound. I think your N sound's still a little strong on rain. Okay, trying to get that more air through on your N, like It's like ain, rain. Doing that sort of progression, just ain, rain, ain, rain. We're also saying rain again like 3 times, like rain, 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 rain. Notice the emphasis again on the A sound, not the N. It's not rain, rain, rain. It's rain, rain, rain. Okay, so just trying to get the vowel sound to be a little bit more dominant in the word versus the N sound.
The rains through a range in our plans.
Rain and wrench right now, the way you're saying them sound very similar in terms of your vowels.
The rains through a range.
Here, rain, wrench, versus rain, wrench, rain, wrench. Can you just say like the letter N for me? N. No, it's not N. It's more N. Back, middle, front, tongue high, mouth more closed. Lots of air coming through the throat. Not so much air coming through the mouth. Close your mouth a little bit more. N. Wrench, rain, wrench, rain, wrench. Make sure you have 2 distinct vowel sounds for those words.
The rains through a range in our plans.
Same thing we mentioned earlier too about R.
Range in our plans. The rains through a range in our plans.
In our. You could even reduce the R a little bit more. In our plans. It doesn't have to be in our plans. You could use it in our plans. Besides that, though,
the rains through a range in our plans.
I like the
rains through a range. Rains through a range.
I like that through a little bit of a roll on the R on through, just to note. So just watch out for that. Through a wrench. Okay.
The rains through a range in our plans.
Yep. Yeah. So those would be my big suggestions there. And yeah, hopefully it does make sense. If you have any questions for me about anything I said, just let me know. But thanks as always for sending audio files. I do appreciate it as always. All right, last one from our original group. Before we get to it, just some quick things I want to check. Press the wrong button there. Thanks for sending that. Okay. Molding. I only relatively recently learned what molding was. Not gonna lie. I'm slow on this stuff, guys. I have no pop culture knowledge.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
I feel like we heard this already. Am I wrong? But we'll just do some quick feedback because this sounds very similar to one we already did.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
Yeah, so again, 3 thought groups. What are you doing in our neck of the woods? Again, I would recommend 2 thought groups. What are you doing in our neck of the woods? What are you doing in our neck of the woods? So again, I probably would have the thought group ending after doing. Okay, what are you doing? Expressing they were doing.
What are you doing in our...
I would also say you don't have to go so high on pitch on what. It's like, what are you doing more? What are you doing?
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
Doing. I would like a slightly clearer NG sound. Doing.
What are you doing in...
Doing versus doing.
In our neck of the woods?
In our. Again, you could reduce the R a little bit more as well. And then for woods.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
Woods versus woods. Again, I would recommend saying woods 3 times, as fast as you can. Woods. Whoa. You want the vowel sound to be really clear. You can even just do the vowel sound, then add the rest of the word, like woods. Cause like woods. It's a little bit of a tricky combination to say there, right? With the DZ type sound at the end. But those would be my big suggestions there, trying to get a more natural sound for that sentence. Thank you for sending that audio file, though. I do appreciate it. Let me know if anything is not clear there. Okay, going back to our master file, see we have 2 more I haven't quite gotten to yet. So I'm going to give you guys back your screen just so I can scout those. Okay. Yeah. Oh, before we do. Okay. What's the difference between tranquilization and sedation and anesthesia? Okay. Let's start with the Let's see. Anesthesia. Anesthesia. Okay. People are asking this last one. They're gonna be singer. I don't know. Unless Zobeda is secretly the singer. Zobeda just claimed the file. But who knows? I'll listen to files in a second. I do want to get to these quick things here. What's the difference between tranquilization, sedation, and anesthesia? Okay, so anesthesia is specifically the medicine that they give you, typically like before surgery or something, so that way you don't feel any pain. Okay, so that's anesthesia. Okay, watch out for that S with that TH. Anesthesia. Okay, it's just a note on that. Sedation is like almost like the state of like being sedated. Okay, so it's like kind of like the condition almost. Okay, so like the condition of being under like anesthesia. And tranquilization is more like I would say specifically like the medicine or like the thing they give you. Okay. Similar to tranquilizer. They got put under general anesthesia. I hope you're okay. I don't know if you're just getting like your wisdom teeth pulled or something like that. That's the last time I was under. And it's actually they put me to sleep. I was out and they took out 4 teeth and I woke up and I had 4 giant holes in my mouth. Yeah, so I hope you're doing okay. But yeah, I am curious. I do want to find out of those. You know, anesthesia is probably the most common of those words. Okay. Sharing all kinds of information. I appreciate that, Mr. Go Big or Go Home. Hopefully you're recovering okay. Yeah, because that's obviously can be a painful procedure. I don't know what age it happens. I want to look up tranquilization just to see if they have anything. Put a tube down your throat for that. That's so interesting. Tranquilize. You know, it's really interesting. So in Google, I just put in, and you guys, I'll share my screen so you guys can see what I'm seeing. Tranquilization is not a very common word. In fact, it's so uncommon. I'll put it this way. On Google, let's make this a little bigger so you can see that. You're going to notice on Google for this, I type in tranquilization. The first hits I get are going to be tranquilized, the verb form. And in fact, the whole page is tranquilize. You know, so tranquilization is not a super common word, just to note. Yeah, usually you see tranquilization more for like animals or things like that. Like if you like an animal goes out of control, or like if there's like a wild animal. But again, the more common word would be like a tranquilizer. You know, like they shot the bear with a tranquilizer. You know, honestly. So tranquilization is not the word that you're going to see as much. Okay. But yeah, you know, it does have that sense of all of these, whether sedation or tranquilization or anesthesia, all these convey the sense of medicine given to take away like the senses so you don't feel things, you know. So in that sense, they're all very, very similar. Okay. But yes, you do see it, tranquilization, more for animals, specifically again, tranquilizer for the form. I'm glad she appreciates the singer. I hope she liked the video where we compared languages, because that's the most of. That's just pretty much a compilation of the singer's greatest hits. Yeah, again, tranquilizer out of the forms. Tranquilizers are the more common. Yeah, tranquilizer is going to be the more common form of that word that you're going to see. Okay. Exactly, all used for numbing agents. Okay, a couple files. Again, I do need to scout. As I'm listening, I do see a third file has emerged.
Like what you're hearing? Let us know by liking and subscribing.
Again, I'm just scouting our last couple files. Okay. Okay. And our last one here. Okay, last 3 files. Share my screen and my sound. I always have to remember to share my sound. And by the way, guys, make sure you are drinking. Always hydrate. Denny is not here. So we always need to remind ourselves. Listen to our last couple files. Listen to this one here.
They went through a wrench in our plans.
Play it one more time.
They went through a wrench in our plans.
Again, we kind of have three distinct thought groups here where I would recommend, I think 2 is plenty for this. I would maybe cut down one of these.
They went through a wrench in our plans.
And again, I'm going to recommend cutting off the last one. I would just wrench. A wrench in our plans. Ran through a wrench in our plans.
They went through a wrench in our plans.
The rain through a wrench. The one thing is I would say, so that part, like the rain through a wrench, the rain through a wrench. You're kind of falling into this very sing-songy pattern, like the rain through a wrench.
They went through a wrench.
To avoid that, because in general, English isn't the biggest fan of that. If you can avoid it where possible, English is going to prefer that. Make one of these words stand out a little bit more. Normally, stresses fall later in a sentence, so I would recommend putting the heavier stress on wrench. So instead of the rain through a wrench, I'd be the rain through a wrench. The rain through a wrench in our plans.
They went through a wrench in our plans.
Because right now it's super regular. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Like that would be a more common sort of pattern. The rain through a wrench in our plans.
They went through a wrench in our plans.
Yeah. And again, so reducing also plans, because I wouldn't recommend putting the stress there. I think it's going to be a little more common putting on wrench. Okay, so those would be my big suggestions there, all related more or less to stress. I think the other things are sounding pretty good.
They went through a wrench in our.
Yeah, in general, like your vowel sounds on like rain and wrench, those can be tricky words, but I think these sound okay.
They went through a wrench in our plans. They went through a wrench in our plans.
Plans. Yeah. So I think the big thing here is going to just be stress, playing around some of those stress patterns. Zabeda, thank you for sending that. This one here.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
This for this sentence here.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
Putting stress on what?
What are you doing in our.
What are you doing? What are you doing? I personally would probably recommend putting heavier stress on doing than on what.
Our neck of the woods. What are you doing?
What are you doing? Because if you put on what, that makes it almost sound like, again, it sounds like you're reading off of a script, which I know you are. But to give it that more natural conversational feel, I think putting that stress on doing will be helpful.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
In our neck of the woods.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
In our neck of the woods. In our neck of the woods. It almost sounds like you're stressing R.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
In our neck of the woods. In our neck of the woods. So I'm okay with putting the stress on R. I don't have an issue with that.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
In our neck of the woods.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
What are you doing in our neck of the woods? So right now, your heavier stress is on what? And most likely that's not going to happen in a question. Okay, so that's the first thing. Put that stress a little heavier on doing. Second thing is if you're going to put the stress on R, you probably want to make that stand out more because right now the pitch is a little bit muted. But if you stress R is one of those words. These pronouns typically are not words that are stressed. So if you're going to stress them, oftentimes you're going to hear them slightly overstressed. You're going to hear the pitch go up a little bit higher. Like, for what are you doing in our neck of the woods? What are you doing in our neck of the woods? It's like I would exaggerate the stress a little bit there, make that stand out, raise that pitch a little higher.
What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
It also kind of sounds like on woods. Almost sounds like you're going up a bit.
In our neck of the woods.
Woods. And it could be the microphone. Okay, I'll be honest. But for me, when I'm hearing, I feel like I'm hearing like woods with like a rising intonation. But the reality is you would expect that actually to fall. Because, again, this is an information question. It's not a yes-no question. So instead of woods, you'd expect it to be more woods. What are you doing in our neck of the woods? What are you doing in our neck of the woods?
Woods. In our neck of the woods.
Woods. I would fall there. Okay. So those would be my big suggestions for trying to get a more natural sentence in that sentence. or a more natural sound in that sentence. So thank you for sending those 2 files. I always appreciate it. Always great to hear from you. Our last one for today. And by the way, before we hear this again, if you are watching the stream for the first time, say hello, whether it's the replay or in the chat. Okay, it would be great to hear from you. Also be cool to know how you found the stream. But we do this every Saturday at this time. And basically, we use the same link every time as well for sending in these audio files. So if you're just lurking for today, you're just kind of stopping by, seeing what's going on, it would be great to hear from you next time. So check out that document. If you're viewing us the first time, if you're nervous, if you're scared, you're like, oh no, I can't listen to my voice, things like that. One day when you feel more comfortable, it'd be great to hear what you're doing, because I think there's some things that you're probably doing great, and also some things that we can help you speed up on in terms of improving even faster. And let's listen to this last one.
The rain threw a wrench in our plans.
There's a lot going on here in terms of pitches and things.
The rain threw a wrench in our plans.
The rain, very dramatic.
The rain.
It's like the rain, like super dramatic. The rain.
The rain threw a wrench in.
The rain. The rain threw a wrench in our plans. The rain threw a wrench in our plans. The rain threw a wrench. I'm not opposed to having rising intonation on rain.
The rain.
I personally probably do a fall, like the rain. Oh, the rain. Or if you did have a rise, like instead of like rain, instead of rain, maybe a little bit over exaggerate. I think it's actually more of a pitch thing. I think it goes pretty high. I don't think it necessarily has to go that high. It's like more the rain, the rain.
The rain threw a wrench in.
Because also another thing too is that you can get to your next word after rain a little bit faster. Right now you have a little bit of a pause between rain and through. Okay, but I think in more natural speech, you're probably not going to hear that long of a pause.
The rain threw a
rain through, or the rain through, the rain through. So you don't necessarily have to hold rain that long. You can shorten it a little bit.
The rain threw a wrench in our plans. The rain threw a wrench in.
Wrench, again, watching out for that S sound. We've talked about this a lot before, so just kind of listen to previous files. But again, N, ren, wrench, watching out for that sound, because I feel like I'm hearing wrench.
Rain threw a wrench in.
Wrench versus wrench. Okay.
In our plans.
In our plans. And we talked about this earlier as well, but I probably would not stress R or plans. I'd probably just stress wrench personally.
Threw a wrench in our plans.
Yeah, I'm hearing the stress on R. The rain threw a wrench in our plans. There's certainly a context where you could stress R. I don't want to say that's impossible. You certainly could. But those sort of situations are going to be much, much, much less common. They have to be very contextualized. In a general situation, you would not expect R to be so stressed.
Plans. Wrench in our plans.
Plans is sounding a little bit tense and closed off. Hearing plans versus plans. You can say that again like 3 times. Plans. Really trying to get that and that type of sound to be the dominant one in that sentence. Okay, so again, the rain threw a wrench in our plans. Rain threw a wrench in our plans.
The rain threw a wrench in our plans.
Okay, so those would be my big notes there. Thank you for sending your audio file. I, as always, appreciate it. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Tizabeta. All right, guys, so you've just listened to a number of different audio files. Well, if you did not send us audio files, but you're interested in the things that we did, hopefully you were able to at least get some ideas for things you want to consider for natural American English pronunciation. I want to thank all of those again who have sent us audio files to listen to today. I know it takes a certain amount of courage and bravery to get pronunciation files sent in and have the world listen to you and things like that. But, I do appreciate it, and I hope that you found this helpful. If you're trying to get practice just like this, pronunciation practice is best when done consistently and daily. It's very easy to progress slowly or to take steps backward. If you're serious about pronunciation, I really encourage, 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, but it's got to be like every day, because you take a day off and you feel it. you can tell when you haven't been able to keep things up so regularly. So just some things to keep in mind for that. That's, again, what our Telegram group is for. Again, a little pronunciation practice every single day of the week. Keep an eye out. We have another English pronunciation workout video coming up tomorrow. This is going to be dealing with expressions used for job interviews and things like that. So if you want to just practice natural sounding expressions, common expressions, business English expressions, it's going to be a great video to check out. Thank you guys again to those who have sent files. Mr. Go Big about process editing videos of the singer. So we do have a video out on the singer who sang some things for us. He was very kind. However, I will say I don't have a compilation of just the singer just yet, but maybe in the future. I'm open to everything. Thank you guys so much for spending some of your Saturday, some of your weekend, some of your Sunday, depending on where you are, with me. I know there's millions of options out there for American English pronunciation. So the fact that you chose to spend some of your time with us is certainly valuable. I do appreciate that. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. You take care. Have a good day. Have a good night. A good afternoon. And I will see you back at the Schwa Mill next Saturday. Take care.